Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. So glad you've joined us to stay curious right here in downtown Titusville, where our museum, the outreach of the U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation, has been preserving the birth of America's space age for over 25 years. And we have got some historical shuttle launches to talk about as we kick off our monthly segment of the wonderful shuttles of the month. And in April, there's 16 shuttles launched in the month of April. And my friend and co-producer Marty Winkle had a little hand in all of them as a manager in the launch process services. Hello, Marty. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you?
Well, very busy, of course, as we're just less than 10 days away from Shuttle Fest. Things are rolling smoothly. Look forward to seeing you all in our museum Friday night, April 11th, or over at the Hyatt Place Hotel on the 12th and 13th, as we have four wonderful astronauts coming. If you've not registered, you need to do so. Got less than 20 registrations of the 125 limit because of the size of the hotel. So looking forward to a lot of good fellowship just among the astronauts. Who knows who will show up to see some of their astronaut friends, as we're inviting all the local astronauts that we do know to come and join us. And hello to all you out there watching today. We appreciate you. We've had a very interesting couple days here. Yesterday we had Mitch Rothman on the show. Mitch, a great supporter of the American Space Museum with his Manned Space Facebook page and YouTube channel. And he spent the day with us, and I spent 5 hours in front of a United Kingdom film crew from Shine TV doing a documentary on a young man who wants to be an astronaut. And they chose our museum to walk through and look at artifacts. And I really got to work out, and we'll let you know when that's going to be aired on England's public broadcasting station. I'm told, Marty, 7 o'clock or about 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday. And then our influencer, Francis Bourgeois, he has over 5 million followers on his TikTok and Instagram and Facebook pages. So, like I said, I've said Marty and I have now done 1,255 episodes of Stay Curious. So maybe another 500 episodes will be an overnight sensation. But we're sure glad that we're an overnight sensation to you all who have been watching us, for many of you, for the full 5 years that Marty and I have been broadcasting this, first on Facebook and then on our YouTube channel, where we have over 900 episodes loaded up there. The other 200, 300 or so are on Facebook that first year. So we're going to kick off a show that brought us to the dance, the history of our great space age. And on this date, we're coming up on April 4th, this is April 2nd, 2025. But this week, it was announced that the NASA Training Group number 5 of pilots and astronauts for the Apollo Applications Program, they'd planned 10 lunar landings after Apollo 11 and 30 Apollo flights to Earth orbit space stations. This was in 1966, when some of your familiar astronauts were welcomed to the Corps there. I see Jerry Carr. This is a cool thing to have with the signatures there. Al Worden. You can see Bill Pogue, Bruce McCandless, Schweikert. Someone who didn't make it was someone named Givens, Charlie Duke, Fred Hayes. Let's see, the moonwalkers chosen out of this group would be Charlie Duke, Ron Evans, Fred Hayes, Jim Irwin, Ken Mattingly orbited the moon. Edgar Mitchell is in this class. Stu Rosa, moon orbiter. Rusty Schweigert, and Worden, who orbited the moon on there. So quite a group that a couple of them are washouts. Bull, who was a trainer for Grumman, and Givens, and Lynn. No, Lynn did go to space in the shuttle eventually. So historic day for these gentlemen in 1966. Sadly, Marty, wow, One, I see Hayes, of course, and who's alive? Hayes, Duke, Vance Brand, Jack Lausma's in there. Um, and that's about it. Not sure about Lind. I think he's on the far right there standing up. Well, a huge mission on this date in space history took place that is really underlines the quest to go to the moon. In April 1968 was the Apollo 6 launch, and we'll be celebrating that on April 4th. And this was the first time that the all-up Saturn V rocket was put together and was going to work like it should, going to the moon. They were going to do it in stages and have the first stage take dummy rockets up. Then the first and second stage would work with a third stage dummy, and so on. But a political ally in NASA named Mueller lobbied to do this all up, even though Werner von Braun didn't really want to do it this way. And we've got a great story that Gary Allgaier did, our NASA structural engineer. You Google Gary Allgaier, and you'll see his Saturn VI story that had a lot of anomalies, meaning things that went wrong, including the translunar injection did not happen, okay, because the two of the J2 engines shut down early on the second stage, and the third stage S4B firing was was longer than planned, and a terminated thrust was done, and they could not reignite the Saturn 14B engine, which was a requirement to get out of Earth orbit to lunar orbit, and it was judged as not a success in accordance with NASA mission objectives, this April 4th flight of Apollo 6. But Marty, the next time they flew an all-up Saturn V rocket was Apollo 8 in December 1968, going to the moon. So they didn't do another dry run. They went right from this one that was filled with quite a few anomalies, and Gary was a good job at doing that. Shout out to a few of you watching there. Dave Stange, new grandpa up there in Macomb, Michigan. Tom Celentano met most of those astronauts, he said, in this Group 5 class. And hello, Robert Mecklenburg. From the Netherlands. Great to see you, buddy. We also see Dean Babcock, Bob Mayran, Julie Clay saying hi, Gary Gerald, and Doug Forrest all joining our party here with, of course, Carlton Bailey and Steve Jokum. So tell your other friends to join our family here that love to talk space history and share their own views and thoughts through our program here. By the way, all of the footage that you see over and over again of this section of the intersection of the third and fourth or second and third stages there is on every Apollo 11 thing and so forth. A lot of these pictures were from this mission, all right, because they were so spectacular and they've been used thousands of times in there. And the splashdown of the 6 spacecraft, uncrewed, of course, had a lot of positives to that going in there. So April 4th is the date. We're talking about on April 2nd when Apollo 6 was launched in a very important mission to test the rocket there. Well, before we get into the shuttle era of 30 years that changed our world, how about a little thinking tank here? Who's orbiting Earth, Marty? How many human beings do we have orbiting Earth, and where are they? Give you a minute to think about that, okay? And we love updating this and telling you about these people in space because that's what they are. Human beings that are stretching mankind's knowledge into a little toe into the ocean of the universe out there. So how many total you think's out there, Marty, orbiting the Earth right now?
I would say 16.
16. 16, little bit high. We got 14, okay? We've got, of course, on our on the Chinese space station Tiangong, we've got those 3 cosmonauts, or tachionauts is what they call them. They've been up for about 6 months. They're about to segue out to Shenzhou 20. We're waiting for that to happen. If somebody knows when that's going to happen, let me know. Because they just about synchronized with the Crew Dragons going up for some reason. But there's two men and a woman up there on Shenzhou 19. Okay. That'd be a good quiz. How many women are orbiting the Earth at this moment? Okay. And the answer is five, nine men. Crew Dragon made it up to the space station a couple weeks ago. Did I write down their days in space? No, I didn't. We'll detail that a little bit later, but uh, we've got Anne McLean, Nicole Ayers, Takushi Unushi, and Karel Preskov up there. Two rookies and two, this is their second space flight, the Russian and Nicole Ayers. Um, She became the 83rd woman to go to space. Actually, she was the 81st woman to go to space. And then we're going to talk about the Fram crew there, Fram Crew 2, that is orbiting the Earth in a polar orbit. There, you see two women and two men on a private mission. They're in their second full day in space. I haven't seen too many pictures from it. These private missions keep a lot of their broadcasts to themselves. They do not broadcast on NASA because this is not a commercial crew of NASA's commercial crew program. This is an entrepreneur there on the far left, Chang Wang there, who has done this mission on his own as a polar explorer. And Carlton Bailey and I got to have dinner with the three others on there, the two women and the man there. And boy, they were very into everything Antarctica and Arctic. So I posted on Facebook today some of the research that they're doing with Aurora and a phenomenon called Steve as they go through there. And maybe Steve Jokums can correct us on this because I'll bet he knows the answer. Marty, they're going over the poles. Okay, we know when you go around the equator, you have 90 minutes of daylight. It takes 90 minutes, and you got 45 minutes of daylight, 45 minutes of darkness. So I'm trying to wrap my head that they are going from pole to pole, so they're staying in darkness for 12 hours. It's still a 90-minute orbit.
It isn't.
Okay.
It's a, believe it or not, in today's paper it said 43 minutes for orbit.
43 minutes per orbit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be wrong. That defies the laws of physics. 17,500 miles an hour around a 25,000.
No, but the equator is 25,000.
Yeah.
The polar is less than that. I don't know.
Not that less.
Not, this is
Not-
just what today's paper said.
Well, I don't know. Okay, well, that's what you read. Somebody out there, what did you read? How long is, what's the day-night light cycle going from pole to pole? I say they're almost in nighttime 12 hours, okay, and then daylight 12 hours. But they're going through one pole every 45 minutes is what I think that could be, Marty, is it takes them 45 minutes from the North Pole to the South Pole, so they'd be going through in there. But that's interesting. We'll have somebody correct us on that. But point is, 14 humans orbiting the Earth. You got the Soyuz crew that's got Don Pettit on there and two Russians. They'll be coming back in mid-April. And we have Expedition 73, which I've got the symbol for next to 72, is in the queue, as that's going to happen when their expedition, when another Dragon is launched. Let's see, the Russians are launching next week, two Russians and American Johnny Kim. All right, that'll give us another human in space that hasn't been there. Then there's going to be a Expedition 11 crew launched with Xena Cardman, who is going to be the crew chief of Crew 9. She's the crew chief of that. Michael Fink is going to be on that. And a Russian, and I think Kimya Yui, that certainly sounds like the JAXA space agency. So we're about to see in April some switches here of the number of people in space, but it's going to remain from like 10 to 14 for a while, and then maybe they'll get 18 up there again which the record's 19 in September 2024, when Peggy Whitson was in space last time. She's going to be launched in May on the Axiom 4 for her second command of an Axiom spacecraft. She did it, like I said, in September 2024. And she's going to miss her induction into the Astronaut Hall of Fame because she should be orbiting the Earth then. So I'm sure our good friend of the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, Caroline Shoemaker, will try to get a link or something from the space station to there. The orbital period from polar orbit is the same as an equatorial orbit for the same altitude. And he said, Steve Jokums, in polar orbit, a satellite spends roughly equal amounts of time in sunlight, daylight, and darkness during each 24-hour period as it orbits over both the north and south poles. But what is that time? 12 hours? Anyway, hopefully I can have dinner with those ladies and gents again at Zorella's and ask them personally in there. So there's a lot of lack of knowledge because you got to search the knowledge out. And I keep saying, where's that newspaper in everybody's home that you can just pick it up and get some facts? No, I got to fumble around, look for my smart tablet, my cell phone. Oh my gosh, it's not powered up. I got to go to something else. So you all know what I'm talking about. Marty, you got a comment there?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I mean, you're going to spend equal time in daylight and sunlight on each orbit.
How much time is that?
Well, Steve was saying the same as equator. I can't say it. What's the word?
Equatorial.
Yeah. The newspaper today said 43 minutes, but that might be just from pole to pole.
That's what I say. That makes more sense, pole to
But
pole.
still, half the time's going to be daylight, half
They're
going to
up
be night.
higher. They're about 250 miles. They're if they were lower to 200, they'd be going faster. You slow down to speed up, type of thing. So good, great conversation. Got everybody engaged here. That's what we're all about. And point is, you're all interested in space travel. 14 humans are orbiting the Earth, and nobody could tell you all 14 names of them, I'll bet. Well, Steve Jokums could probably, but you know what I'm saying. They become so obscure in our society now because it's like a big yawn. That Fram 2, what a spectacular launch it was. And I didn't even go to the river to watch it. I watched it from my own home, which was kind of lazy of me, but still, we're in a rocket renaissance, and Stay Curious is taking you to it with there. So stay tuned as we talk more about these 14 astronauts and figure out when the Shenzhou 19 is going to come down and 20 is going to launch. They'll come down after 20 launches. And what I'm thinking about, tomorrow we're going to have a special program with one of the founders of the U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation, Mr. Wes Hoagland, who I've met a couple times, and he's going to come in and tell the story of the birth of the our space museum and other things. So you won't want to miss that. And Friday, I'll probably go back to more detail about these astronauts because we're about, I don't know if they said a 4 or 5 day launch mission. So they were launched Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So maybe Saturday they'll be coming back. So we'll get on top of that. All right. Thank you all for enjoying these updates. Well, let's look back in time at the International Space Station as taken from Crew Dragon 9 when they left it. This is the freshest photo we have of this fabulous home away from home, this oasis in space that has been continuously occupied for 24 years. And it could not have been built without the 34 missions of the America's Space Station fleet that took up all of these pieces and parts, except for just a very few. And why do we have this picture here? Because we're going to kick off. Let me get the shuttles up there. Shuttles of the month up there. And our background picture is from STS-6, okay? One of the most famous pictures, iconic of the shuttle era, was taken on November November 30th, 1982. Okay, my sister Cher's birthday. And this has never been repeated. No one ever took a photo like this before. The fog rolled in out to pad 39A as they were taking Challenger for its maiden flight out with a crew of 4. The last time we launched 4 people until the end of the program, 135. And just a spectacular, spectacular image there of our and our shuttle era. And I understand from other photographers that this fleeting fog only lasted for about an hour, and then it dissipated in the morning light. So I know all of you seen that picture, and when it's available on its original photographic paper, it sells for $100 as an 8x10. So you can beautifully frame it and brag about it on there. So let's talk about STS-6, or let's talk about the shuttles of April first, okay? What a huge month, all right? We've had as few as 9 shuttles launched in a month. This is one of the most with 16 shuttles. And as you're zeroing in on STS-1 in the middle, okay, maybe the Hubble mission on the left, STS-31 deployed, you know, how about the important Nero lab of STS-80, all right? It's hard to pick the best missions of April. Many rank as the best shuttle missions of all time. 2 maiden flights of the 5 orbiters, STS-1 Columbia, of course, OV-102 on April 12th, 1981, and then Challenger OV-099 on this mission we're going to talk about, launched April 4th, 1983, of Challenger's maiden flight. 3 of Challenger's 10 flights were in April, the others being 41C in 1984 and 51B in 1985. Let's see, where's the 41C's right there? Yeah, the top row there, up there. And 51B is one of my favorite with Pegasus in the blue background there. The 16 space flights of April had 95 tickets punched to space, which had 11 seats for 9 different women. The most women flown in any month is 9. 5 astronauts flew twice in April: Steve Nagel, Jay Apt, Ellen Ochoa, Linda Godwin, and Ken Cameron, which Marty and I have met Ken Cameron out of that group. And Jerry Ross had 3 space flights of his record time 7 in April. So he's floating around in April, okay? Boiler up there, Jerry. I did meet him a few times, a proud Purdue knot in there. Like I said, it's hard to pick the best of all of these. 2 of the 5 great observatories of NASA were deployed in April: Hubble in 1990 and Gamma Ray Observatory in 1991. The Solar Max satellite retrieval and repair on STS-41C was groundbreaking for the Manned Maneuvering Unit. And the LDEF, Long Duration Exposure Facility, was deployed, which stayed up there 3.5 years longer than it was going to after the Columbia accident, Challenger accident, I mean. 4 serious laboratory mission experiments were done. 2 studies of the Earth and ISS HARDAP missions are among the 16 missions of April. And each mission has unique, beautiful artwork that has a lot of hidden meaning, as we'll soon share with you here on Stay Curious today. So, STS-6, there's the crew. Let's see, where's the launch? The launch didn't show up. Okay. There's the crew, which you have Paul Weitz. Let's see, Paul is in the middle there. On the left is Don Peterson. Carol Bobko is seated on the right, and he was the pilot. Weitz was the commander. And that, of course, is the one and only Story Musgrave on his first space flight of 7, standing up there. The mission used the first lightweight external tank and lightweight rocket booster casings. They deployed the tracking data and relay satellite, and which is the main thrust of its logo there. And it was the first time that they removed all three main engines at the pad to repair fuel line cracks that were detected when it was out there. Uh, we have the first spacewalk, uh, Story Musgrave, and the first spacewalks of the shuttle program were performed by Peterson and Musgrave, lasting 4 hours and 17 minutes, testing all the systems there. And I wonder if these spacesuits are still being used, Marty, on the space station. Maybe not, hopefully. But this mission was launched April 4th, 1983. Okay, so we're talking 2 years ago. Now, one of the great stories about this mission, and there's many stories about this was originally signified as the Crew F in an alphabetized crew listing and training documents. Okay, so astronauts being astronauts, they embraced this Crew F moniker, and you got it. They took their picture like members in a theme from the comedy sitcom called F Troop, a popular 1960s sitcom set at an American West outpost in the 1860s. And those of you that baby boomers like me, you will certainly remember F Troop stars there, and Larry. Larry Storch is there in the middle. A real good actor on the far left. Anyway, I can't remember. I'm having brain freeze there. That doesn't matter, but they introduced us to the Fakari Indians. Okay. And so it's quite a funny and edgy type of sitcom for the time in there. But the astronauts embraced that, and they started a tradition of having a silly type of outfit as a theme of their mission. Okay. And they would take serious pictures in their spacesuit, then maybe serious pictures in their military garb or civilian clothes. And then they would do something silly to kind of ease the tension on there. But the satire of American TV sitcom aired for 2 seasons only. And yet it is a classic there. Forrester is the name of the actor on the left, and someone will be clicking in there. All the F Troop actors are gone. Yeah, Forrest Tucker there. How would the main engines been removed at the pad? You know what, Dean Babcock? We might get a info from Terry White on that when we get him in here to talk about the shuttles of April. Yes, Marty.
You know, I don't think Terry would be involved in that, but Kevin Hostrather, who you met today, he would know.
Right. Discovered during a 20-second flight readiness firing in December 1982, cracks in the number one main engine were confirmed to be the cause of the leak during a second fire readiness performed in January. All three engines were removed while the shuttle was on the pad. So that had to be quite an undertaking on there. So that'll be a good opportunity. Yes, I'll get a hold of Kevin Hostrader about that on there. So, there's the Fakari Indians. Okay, it was like very, very interesting sitcom, interesting crew. Let me go back to that crew again as I point out. Let's look at their serious picture. These 4 astronauts had an interesting NASA career, Marty. Bobko here and Peterson beside him were manned orbiting laboratory astronauts for the Air Force, all right, that were going to be on the spy mole laboratory, okay, basically a spy space station. White's on the far left was the pilot of the first of 3 Skylab missions, okay, and became the chief astronaut, John Young's deputy in the astronaut office. Peterson was on the Apollo 16 support crew, and Musgrave was a scientist astronaut who helped design the equipment used on the 4-hour EVA in there. And he also could have been a late Apollo, like Apollo 21 or 22 astronaut there. He's the only one alive of that group, and I believe Story's 88 years old. And we've got a docent in our museum that lives in the same uh, condo that Story does, and he seems to be doing well and exercises every day, walking on the beach and stuff like that. So, very good here. Let's get to another beautiful shuttle of the month of April. Again, got to look at that iconic shot of Challenger going out to the pad for the first time on November 30th, 1982. And again, there's our shuttles of the month popping up there. The next one we want to highlight is STS 83. I take these in chronological order on the calendar. Okay, so there's the 83 mission, which was the famous repeat mission. The launch was on April 4th also, but this was the MSL. Okay, a laboratory to work with materials science lab cut short due to concerns about one of 3 fuel cells, marking only the 3rd time in shuttle history that a mission ended early. And this was you've got Jim Halsell, was the commander there on the left. Susan Still on the right is now Susan Kilran. All right. We've talked to her and talked about her. We met her at the Space Center, Marty and I. And of course, Don Thomas is beside her there, and Don will be at your Shuttle Fest. I'm sure he'll love to talk about this mission. Janice Voss is on the far left. She had 5 missions and then lost her life to breast cancer. There you have, in the back 3 men are Michael, left to right is Roger Crouch, who we've had on Stay Curious, Greg Linteris, and Michael Gerhardt there. So they were launched in April 1997, and then they went back to space April, May, June, July. Where's my shuttle scroll? It's too far away. I think they had a 3 or 4 month down, and then they relaunched the mission itself. Okay, let's look at this iconic patch of STS-83 while Marty asks a question.
I think Babcock is asking, wasn't Bobko an original MOL astronaut?
I believe he was.
No, he wasn't.
Also, I'm pretty sure he was there, Dean.
No,
No?
he was selected after the cancellation of MOL
Okay.
on Crew 7.
And Story wasn't one either, was he? There were 17 of them, though. But thanks for the question there. We'll fact check that again there. STS-83. The patch depicts Columbia launching into space for the first microgravity science laboratory mission. MSL will investigate material science, fluid dynamics, biotechnical, and combustion science in the microgravity environment of space. The center circle symbolizes a free liquid. The center circle symbolizes a free liquid under microgravity conditions, representing various fluid and material science experiments. The symbolic of the combustion experiment is the surrounding starburst of a blue flame burning into space. The 3-lobe shape of the outermost starburst ring traces the dot pattern of a transmission Lau photograph typical of biotechnical experiments. Mission number 83 is shown at the bottom center of the patch. As a forerunner of future International Space Station missions, it is hoped the scientific results and knowledge gained during the mission will be applied to solving problems on Earth for the benefit and advancement of mankind. Artist Mark Pestana designed the patch. Now, what a simple looking patch, Marty, and what an amazing description of it, including the 3-lobe shape of the outermost starburst ring. And I see it's got 3 type of the center, lighter in the middle, and then the outer is faded away. That represents the transmission Lau photograph, typical of biotechnical experiments. So we'll see if Don Thomas has got his Lau photographs down or not there, Marty, when we meet him. And then this mission was reflown, STS-94, Oh, let me grab it here. Fetch the scroll, Mark. Fetch the shuttle scroll here. STS 94, because I know you're all going to keep me honest, was launched. Of course, they get all jumbled up. 94 was launched in July 97. So April, May, June, July. April, yeah. 3-month turnaround, the quickest ever. The same crew flew. And guess what? They kept the same patch, just changed the color on it. And I love the opportunity to do that. Wait, yeah, back there. There you go, like that. There. There we are. Psychedelic here, Marty. All right. All right. Don't go into a fit there. But they changed it from red to blue. And one of the most iconic patches, I think. And then, when I was a novice learning these patches here, basically 7 years ago, um, you wonder why is this repeated, and then you dig into it and you understand that. So STS 83, our microgravity science lab, Columbia's mission there. Okay, STS 83, let's see, would have been Columbia's 22nd mission. Okay, and then they changed it to 94. That was his 23rd mission. Why didn't they just call it 83R or repeat or something like that? There was a reason for that 94 that Don told us, Marty. I don't remember exactly, but it was to keep the accounting straight and all that sort of stuff. Robert Law's looking forward to meeting Susan Kilran, the pilot of this. She could have easily been a commander, but she married a Navy SEAL who not only was a Navy SEAL, he trained the Navy SEALs, and had four children. So she decided to stay at home. And yes, she said being a mother was tougher than being an astronaut in there. All right, let's kick off another beautiful mission here. The Gamma Ray Observatory of STS 37 was launched on April 5th, 1991. And let's look at the artwork of STS 37. This was, like I said, 1991. And 37 is, you got 34, 33, 32, 36. Where's 30? There we are. 37. After 35, Astro 1. The principal theme of the STS-37 crew patch is the primary payload, the Gamma Ray Observatory, GRO, and its relationship to the Space Shuttle. The Space Shuttle and GRO are both depicted on the patch and are connected by a large gamma. All right, that's your gamma right there, the exhaust plume sort of, and the rainbow looking thing. The gamma symbolizes both the quest for gamma rays by GRO as well as the importance of the relationship between the manned and unmanned elements of the United Space Program. The Earth background shows the southern portion of the United States under a partial cloud cover. Okay, if you can think that's the... Oh, I see. Florida down there, the peninsula. With cloud cover, while the two fields of 3 and 7 stars respectively refer to the 37 mission designation. The patch was designed by the crew of STS-37 that included Commander Jay Nagel. There, he's in the middle. Pilot Ken Cameron, there on the left, who we've met. He's a Buckeye. Jerry Ross, EVA in the upper right there. Jerry Ross and Jay Apt is the other spacewalker, and of course that's Linda Godwin there on there. They deployed the GRO on Flight 3. It did a phenomenal science mission during its history up there, and don't have any other pictures of that. So a great crew, actually, and there's 2 of Jerry's 3 missions in April. Oh, there's the Gamma Ray Observatory. And gamma rays, they were basically captured by those black things in the center. It's very difficult to explain, but certain energy sources from stars and even galaxies across our universe are like raindrops, so to speak, just go in every direction. Raindrops isn't a good analogy. It's more like, but these rays actually are all over, and intercepting them helps us understand how black holes are formed and galaxies and stuff like that. So a very important mission to astronomy, and one of the great of 4 observatories that NASA deployed. And there's Jerry on his spacewalk. I think he may have done an emergency spacewalk to deploy the antenna on the Gamma Ray Observatory. Some of you may know that history, but I think there was the antenna for the observatory to communicate back to probably Jet Propulsion Lab or Goddard in Jet, either probably, I don't know who controlled it, but wherever they controlled it, uh, my guesses would be the Jet Propulsion Lab in California or Goddard in the Baltimore area there. But there's Jerry. That's a picture that many of you have seen. I think it's on the cover of one of his great books on there. And we look forward to Jerry being involved in a shuttle fest somewhere down the line. And our final shuttle of the 16 beautiful shuttles that we're beginning featuring here is STS-131, launched on April 5th, 2010. Okay, this sort of has a sad part about it. Let's look at the sad part is the crew pilot Alan Poindexter lost his life in an accident some years ago. But here was it. Let's see talk about this mission 131. Late in the program, we've got an early mission with STS-6. All right, we've got the science being done in the payload bay by astronauts that is now transferred to the International Space Station. And now we've got a hard hat mission to feature on our episode of Stay Curious today. So STS-131, as I go to the back of a book that many of you own and enjoy, handbook, patch book. The patch highlights the space shuttle in the rendezvous pitch maneuver called RPM. This maneuver is heavily photographed by the International Space Station crew members, and the photos are analyzed back on Earth to clear the space shuttle's thermal protection system for re-entry. The RPM maneuver illustrates the teamwork and safety process behind each space shuttle launch. In the payload bay is the multi-purpose logistics module, the MPLM, this one being Leonardo, which is carrying several science racks, the last of 4 crew quarters and supplies for the International Space Station. And I believe they left Leonardo up there. The 51.6 degree inclination orbit is illustrated by 3 gold bars of the astronaut symbol, and its elliptical wreath contains the orbit of the International Space Station right there. The star atop the astronaut symbol is the dawning sun, which is spreading its early light across Earth. The background contains 7 stars, 1 for each crew member. They are proud to represent the United States and Japan for the mission. And those crew members were Alan Poindexter, the commander. Okay, I said he was pilot, but he was the commander. Let's look at their stylized picture here. That's Alan in the middle, rest in peace. James Dutton was the pilot. Richard Mastracchio, the mission specialist. Richard's looking back in the background there to the left. Dorothy Metcalf Limburger's the mission specialist there. Dorothy is beside Poindexter right there. Stephanie Wilson's on the far left. This was her last mission. She's been waiting to go to space since 2010 on the crew Dragon that she got bumped from. Nikoi Yamazaki, the Japanese lady there, and Clayton Anderson. Clayton Anderson's up here. Clayton wrote something, his book I've got to read, Marty. He kind of, well, I've heard that it's not your average Warm and Fuzzy Astronaut book that he does levy some criticism from his experiences. But glad that you're all checking in with us today. There's Alan Poindexter. Like I said, really a shame, the tragic jet ski accident that he lost his life in. And there's the launch, one of the UCF brothers launch, STS-131. And there we've got the logistic module of Leonardo in the payload bay, ready to step out there. And a beautiful, beautiful, iconic shot. That's one of my favorites of the whole program, Marty. So STS-131 puts us 4 space shuttles in the books of the 16 that we're going to talk about for the month of April. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I do. I enjoy doing the artwork. I always find these, what artists call Easter eggs and so forth. And speaking of artwork, Marty, we're going to do a world premiere of our friend and world-renowned artist Chris Callie's special works that he commissioned for himself to do, a montage of Eileen Collins and another montage of the Hubble telescope. So Friday we'll be teasing you that we're going to do a world premiere of a new piece of artwork honoring Eileen Collins by our friend and wonderful artist who not only does space art but has over 40 U.S. postage stamps to his credit, the great Chris Callie. So Marty, anything over there we need to button up before we say goodbye for another edition of Stay Curious?
Yeah, I checked with Wikipedia, Mark, and Bobco was selected. Actually, there's 3 different entries on it in 3 different locations, but it looks like he was selected in Crew 7 for MOL, but MOL was canceled before he actually became active.
All right.
And Bobco was MOL.
Okay.
Not Bobco, I mean Story Musgrave.
Story Musgrave was a mole astronaut. Okay, thank you for looking that up, Marty. There were 17 of them. Some of them segued into the different things like F-15 and so forth. That itself is a great program to maybe do one day, Marty. So we love the manned orbiting laboratory, though it has some clandestine type of connotations to it. But thank you, Dean Babcock, for that great insight there. Look forward to meeting him at Shuttlefest, Marty. And Robert Law says he'll be meeting Susan Kilran next month in Cranfield, England. But Robert, you're going to be seeing us here in 10 days, brother. So we'll definitely get Robert on the show here to stay curious with you, as we'll just be having a big love fest about this time next week here. Everybody trying to prop me up and keep me sane for all that's going on with our Shuttlefest event coming up here April 11th, 12th, and 13th. So, Marty, thanks a lot for your help. He did it remotely yesterday and could have just said, Mark, let's call it off, because he was being a docent out at Kennedy Space Center. Maybe we'll ask him about that tomorrow or Friday. Tomorrow we're going to have Wes Hoagland, who is one of the founding members of the U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation. He must be, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how this all came about way before I was here, some 25 years ago. So until tomorrow, I hope you appreciate today's show. Tell people to share it, like it, and tell your friends that this is the only place where you can get in-depth knowledge about our wonderful space shuttles that have made America so strong and our International Space Station partners so global in today's world. So thank you very much. I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you tomorrow to bridge the space between us.